Alright, last week I put out a video encompassing everything that's been swirling around the internet on the Miller's Organic Farm case. However, this week I went a little bit deeper and I looked at court records from the very beginning of this particular case. And what's coming up is going to be a summary from beginning to where we stand today. Now, this is not a legal video. I am not a legal professional. I have done my research, and if you are a legal professional, please comment down below based on the court records from this case. And I want to ask you really quickly to please share this video, whether it's with a legal professional that could actually help Miller or just on your social media. It's important to keep this story at the forefront and not allow it to be brushed over. But first I want to talk about why it's really important to talk about this case and keep it at the forefront. Amos Miller is running what is called a private membership association, a PMA. It is a fully legal workaround to the government's regulations on meat processing, on dairy, and so forth. Amos Miller is not the only one operating under this format. There are thousands of farmers around the United States that have adopted this workaround and are currently operating under it. And what it appears as though the USDA is trying to do in the Miller's Organic Farm case is to pierce the legitimacy of the private membership association format for buying and selling food. And if the USDA succeeds against Miller's Organic Farm, the thousands of others working under this PMA format will be soon targeted. What the private membership association does is it allows growers to really work around a lot of the regulations surrounding meat, dairy, poultry, etc. Regulations that I would truly argue are not intended to help, but hinder small food growers from moving forward and from succeeding on the market. So without further ado, I'm going to go from start to finish on the Miller's Organic Farm case. What I have done is I have put both the legal statements and the plain terms explanation of what they mean on that PDF. Link below to download your copy. The outstanding case started on April 4th of 2019 when the U.S. government came against Miller's operation for processing meat without a federal or state inspector on site. Any meat processed in the USA for public resale is required to come under state or federal inspection before that meat is sent to the consumer. Now, the private membership workaround for this is the fact that this meat is being privately sold. It's not for public resale, and that is what Miller was working under. On July 11th, the court appointed Miller an attorney by the name of Stephen LaFuente of Dallas, Texas. He is the court-appointed attorney for Miller's case in Pennsylvania. On November 19th, the judge, Edward G. Smith, rules in favor of the U.S. On April 16th, 2020, and this becomes the game changer in this particular case, a consent decree is signed by the judge, Edward G. Smith. And I'm going to read the definition of a consent decree from the Cornell Law School. And it says, a consent decree is a decree made by a judge with the consent of all parties. It is not strictly a judgment, but rather a settlement agreement approved by the court. And once approved by the judge, the agreement is binding and enforceable on both parties. A consent decree is not appealable, except that it can be set aside by the court for fraud on the part of one party or for error on the part of both parties. And what happened, as far as I can see from the internet, from these records, and from what I'm finding on the Miller's Organic Farm website, was essentially a cease and desist for Miller. It said that he could not freshly process any meat. And from a post from August 5th of 2021 on the Miller's Organic Farm website, it would appear as though Miller did give his consent. He posted what the judge required of him. He stated that they were not allowed to process any new meat products until a full inventory was given of what they have to the government. And again, reinstating a consent decree is not an admission of guilt, but unfortunately it does bind all parties to the agreement. And this is where some would argue that Amos Miller made a big mistake. But here's what I'm going to argue. It is entirely possible that Miller was working under very poor counsel. As I'm going to mention down the road, Miller has tried to get rid of this court-appointed attorney to no avail. In fact, I'm going to be pulling up an article from Lancaster Online, and these are words from Miller's court-appointed attorney, Stephen LaFuente, about Miller, the one for whom he is to be advocating. He says, quote, "I'm at my wit's end, trying to reason with Miller." He comments that Miller is nice, but very impressionable. And you can be the judge, but in my opinion, these are not the words of a sympathetic advocate. After the consent decree is signed, Miller is forced into an inventory of all meat, and animal body parts, whether packaged or unpackaged, that are on the premise at Miller's Organic Farm. On June 9th, 2021, Miller is accused of not ceasing meat operations at Miller's Organic Farms. He is found guilty on June 16th. And on August 19th of 2021, Miller appeals to the judge for a better judgment. On October 21st, Miller seeks to dismiss that court-appointed attorney, Stephen LaFuente. And on February 7th, 2022, the court denies the removal of Stephen LaFuente. Now, in the midst of all of this, an entity named Prairie Star National begins some legal interaction for Miller. Now, Prairie Star National was pretty quickly given the boot. On November 16th, quote, "The clerk of the court is directed to reject any attempted filings in this matter by Prairie Star National, an unlicensed third-party entity espousing sovereign citizenship political beliefs." Can't give a lot of commentary on that. Prairie Star National has very little presence on the internet and very little credibility behind them. Miller really needs a solid legal defense. Someone who can loop back around to the reality that he is an established private membership association that was breaking no laws at the onset of this. But the bottom line was that this court-appointed attorney remained Amos's attorney, and on July 28th of 2022, Miller was threatened with imprisonment. On August 5th, 2022, Miller submits an appeal to the judge to basically stop the proceedings of the court. And that's when the Amos Miller story blew up in the media. Now, the media has put a lot of different spins on it, and that's why I wanted to present what I had directly from the horse's mouth. But it really truly needs to be our prayer and our effort to get Amos Miller a very strong legal defense. Because what is at stake here is not just Miller Organic Farms. What is at stake here is a very viable workaround. It's a legal way that we can continue to grow food privately without the government looking at every single piece of meat that we want to sell off of our farms.